How's it going, MMOHuts? This is DizzyPW closing out the Hi-Rez Smite World Championships Season 2 with a meeting with the legend himself, the YouTube star who moved on to be a game developer on Smite, who is now running his own show on Paladins under Hi-Rez's booth. Please introduce yourself to the poor people who don't know of your great story and tell us how you got to this point.
So my name is Rorik, more commonly known as Drybear. I am the lead designer of Paladins, which is the newest competitive online title from Hi-Rez. Previously I worked on the development team for Smite, designing gods like Khepri and Ratatoskr, that kind of thing. Before that I was an esports caster and analyst for Smite. Actually last year I was host of the analyst desk here for Smite World Championship, the first year 2015. And before that I was just a man in his bedroom making YouTube videos.
And that's how it is. You didn't really go to school for this, did you? You just kind of picked it up and realized you're kind of a prodigy and went from there?
I wouldn't say a prodigy, but sure. I went into school for computer engineering. That was my background. It's a lot of technical background, which helps me kind of blend between, as a game designer, talking to some of the programmers and some of the platform programmers as well, and kind of gave me that technical aspect, but a lot of it was just passion driven.
So talking about Paladins, you guys are working on a lot of the same tech as Smite. What is your primary drive to separate Paladins to kind of capture a different market?
A lot of it is the gameplay itself, right? I mean, obviously being a shooter rather than a third-person MOBA, and a lot of it is the feel too. So you look at the kind of feeling of Smite. It's very colorful. It's very kind of silly and doesn't take itself too seriously. We want to capture that same element, but in a very different feel. So ours is very bright, very cheerful, whereas some of the darker colors you see in Smite itself, and obviously some of the whimsical, more fantasy-level worlds, where you get a little bit more. It's not as fantastical in Smite. It's more realistic, and we wanted to separate in that way.
So talking about the cards, I've had some of my team play the game a little bit, got a little bit of thoughts on it, but it seems like you're really changing direction very quickly in this beta. What's the current goal with the card system, and what do you think it's going to address towards removing or including archetypes for the actual characters?
Sure. So there's a larger question there of, on the slider between MOBA and shooter, are we more MOBA or are we more shooter? I think realistically right now we're more MOBA than anything else with the shooter elements in there. And we're experimenting with moving that slider a little bit closer to the shooter element to actually get that kind of faster paced action. Now, obviously the core of Paladins is that card system, allows you to modify your character, craft your own playstyle, and really allow you to build certain things along the way using collection. And we want to keep that in the game, but obviously as we experiment with more options in Paladins, that system will shift slightly. We like having the powerful cards start in the beginning, the specialty cards that really define your playstyle, and then having those supplementary cards after to really modify it in your own personal way, and we want to hold on to that as much as we can.
And what is your thoughts on the current primary mode with the capture and then pushing the siege engine in? Do you think it's a little bit too snowbally? Do you think you're going to find a way to make it work?
We are confident we can make it work, and we're actually shifting that to be more of our competitive mode. So obviously have a lot of depth, a lot of change in strategy. So you just have the capture mode that transitions into a push mode, kind of like attack defend mode, and then maybe even work in some payload at the end or something like that. We're experimenting with a lot of different options, but because there's so many stages in that, it feels more competitive than casual or anything else. That's why we put in the casual queue that allows you to kind of play capture only or siege only. We're also experimenting with a lot of different modes internally, one of those being just pure attack defend payload, where one team will start on one side of the map, the other team will start on the other side of the map. It's very linear driven with a lot of tight corridors, and you just push a payload across the map in many different titles you've seen before. We're experimenting with that, and then we're deciding, do we want to have a lot of game modes? Do we want to have one game mode with some auxiliary modes similar to Smite? And once we have that decision, we'll have a more clear view, I guess.
And on the competitive side of things, do you feel that the cards are going to offer enough diversity in the champions that the cards would more become a primary or even a partial part of the banning system in a ranked mode? Or do you think that it's primarily going to be you're going to have to ban these characters and then just deal with whatever cards they decide to surprise you with?
So obviously the cards themselves is a big question for us internally. We're actually having open discussions about it and figuring out how we want to include that into the competitive level. We have ideas tossed around our heads, like you do a pick ban draft for the champions, and then once you have that selected, you actually go into a secondary stage, which would be for the cards. For example, you may have your 5 champions selected for your team, and then after that you say, okay, you've got Cassie on the enemy team, I want to ban these 3 cards from you, and have that little depth of changing the playstyle and seeing which team truly is the best when put in that kind of situation. So the cards cards themselves, really, I mean, we're kind of going back and forth between should they be less random, should they be more random. Obviously, having more randomness in there makes it feel more like a card game. A lot of CCGs and card games themselves, Magic, Hearthstone, those kind of things have been very successful in a competitive level with having randomness. Or should they be more constructed like a talent system or a buff system, that kind of thing. And we're still figuring that out as we get closer and closer to the Paladins Founder Tournament. That's actually why the Founders Tournament exists, is we're trying to figure out what works at a competitive level.
Seems like a really exciting time in development where you just have so many possible paths you could go. Also seems like might have something to do with why you've had such big bags under your eyes in recent videos. You guys are getting worked hard, aren't you?
We definitely are, and obviously, it's actually borderline crazy, but I wouldn't say crazy all the way to do a patch every week. I mean, obviously, we're locking our builds, on Tuesdays, shipping it on Thursday, working through the weekend, locking a new one on the next Tuesday, right? A lot of times you'll see content updates. Smite and most online free-to-play games, you'll see every 2 to 4 weeks you'll see an update. Every week is just, it's madness for us. But obviously for us, we're very passion-driven. We know we want to get Paladins to a state where it's good enough to open up to the general public, get closer to an open beta where everyone can try it out. And as we're still solving these larger questions and wondering, should we have more game modes? How many abilities should the champions have? Should we have the card system look like this or like that? Those still being open right now is something that is driving us to work very hard, because we want to make sure those are solidified. We know what the spirit of Paladins is, and we hit a point where we say, oh, that's Paladins, we're good to go. Let's go along a certain path.
All right, let's close it out with a little bit of fan service for the people watching our Smite coverage. You guys revealed the next champion for Paladins this weekend. Can you tell us what's going on with that?
Sure. So obviously, we're big fans of Smite. I came from Smite myself. It's a big part of our hearts and also our studio in general. And we wanted to take a piece from Smite and bring it into Paladins in our own way. So we decided to kick off Sylvanas from the top of Grover, his pet tree ant, and then take Grover into our game so he could be a champion on his own and actually be the star of the show. So he actually found a mystical lantern in the swamps, in the forests. He picks it up and he fires it like a gun, and he actually will be a champion in Paladins that's playable.
It's fantastic, exciting news. To close it out, can you tell us any details about this upcoming tournament? Where can they check it out? When can they expect it?
We'll have more information coming soon. The high-level gist is it's going to be in the spring. We'll be starting qualification soon, so those of you who are really interested in being competitive Paladins players, we'll have information available for signups, and so we'll have those qualification tournaments going into a larger qualification LAN leading up to the big LAN itself. So $100,000 is up for grabs, so if you're looking to be involved in the early stage of Paladins, now's the time.
Definitely sign up for beta. We'll try and give you guys any beta codes we come across to get as many of you in as possible. And get ready. This is going to be an exciting game, and it's going to grow just like Smite did, because Hi-Rez, they've got their act together. They know what they're doing now, and they've got people like him leading their development team. And people like him you do not find very often inside of the gaming industry. Us free-to-play gamers, we are well aware of that. Thank you so much for helping out this community, this gaming industry, bringing your passion, your knowledge, and we look forward to many good things from you.
Thank you.